Yes, hello, my name is Justin Jansen, and while we talk a lot about green production today or case studies, getting these contents to the viewers is also a source of carbon emissions, and that's why I'm going to tell you about the carbon footprint of TV and streaming in Germany. So the objective, in order to compare anything at all, I needed a functional unit. In this case, it is 1 hour of viewing TV or streaming video. Just to bring you up to date, OTT is over-the-top content, which basically means video streaming. DTT is what we in Germany call antenna television. IPTV is any form of linear television via the internet, and CPE, customer premises equipment. These are any kinds of boxes or amplifiers that you have in your home. There have been a few studies that have been published on this topic. They all look at the carbon footprint of streaming, and some compare it to television as well. They are all focused in different regions, and not all of them include linear television. Another thing, as you can see here, is platform penetration. This I had to keep in mind because it is very different in different countries. While in the UK, satellite DTT, antenna television, is very popular with over 60% of households. You can see that here. In Germany, it's rather unpopular, at only around 6% of households. On the other hand, cable and satellite TV are dominant in Germany, but play a minor role in other countries. There have been massive efficiency gains in hardware energy consumption in the last couple of years, especially when it comes to standby modes. And there has been a shift in hardware usage. Nowadays, we need less peripherals because their functionality has been integrated into modern TVs or smart TVs. I have just looked at the distribution side. So content production was excluded, and so were embodied emissions, manufacturing, transport, and end-of-life emissions. I also focused on households, private households, so I didn't include public TV sets in bars, restaurants, or hotels. We have the energy consumption of broadcast or television on the left and streaming on the right. And you see this gray area here, the gray bar. This is the viewing devices. For broadcast, this means the television, and it accounts for around 90% of total energy consumption for 1 hour of viewing television. When we have a look at the streaming side, for example, here the TV bar on the streaming side, for example, if you watch Netflix on your smart TV for 1 hour, the energy consumption is virtually the same as watching linear television. But then the smaller the screen gets, the less energy is being consumed in total. If we look at the different platforms, DTT is rather inefficient because, for example, in Germany, we have about 150 transmitters or transmitter towers that use a lot of energy, but only 5% of the households actually receive DTT. When it comes to cable TV, this is also rather inefficient because it uses a lot of bandwidth. Yeah, speaking of IPTV, this is relatively efficient because only the channel that you're currently watching is transmitted. And last but not least, satellite TV. This is the most efficient one because one satellite or just a few satellites can reach hundreds of millions of homes. But one has to keep in mind that the embodied emissions can be quite high. If you think of rocket launches for satellite deployment, for example, this is a thing to consider. And once again, data rate impact. There's no need to scale down every video that you screen on to 360p or something. This won't save much energy. And in order to calculate more accurate carbon emissions for a specific viewing scenario, I developed a little carbon calculator tool for TV distribution and viewing. Once I have set all the parameters, I will get some results on the right.
To see the relation between the transmission, the energy used consumed for the transmission and for the viewing, and that's very interesting because the question is who's in charge here, who has agency on changing something, and I thought the agency was more on the side of the broadcasters and the streamers, but actually we have a whole lot of leverage here to do something about the energy consumption. Patricia Beek and Jana Halter, they can't be with us today, but sent us a video presentation.
Today We would like to walk you through our closure report covering the background and requirements, implementation, and results and achievements of our green production initiative throughout this report. We chose to use the Green Motion Guide as a starting point and tailored it to the specific requirements of our TV studio production.
We strive to create a pioneering template for future green producing reports in the realm of TV studio productions.
We created comprehensive tables that collected various data, such as travel to production meetings and the TV studio, the use of technical equipment like laptops, and other relevant information.
In the end, we conducted a follow-up CO2 balance to provide an overview of the actual CO2 emissions.
Regrettably, we were unable to attain the Green Motion label, and our actual CO2 emissions exceeded our initial estimates. We attribute the CO2 emissions discrepancy to various challenges, including the initial lack of a precise method to measure studio electricity consumption.
Despite the obstacles, we gained valuable insights into implementing sustainable practices that can serve as a guide for future projects.
In some cases, it's really you have to invest a bit to be more environmentally friendly. But in other cases, actually, the environmentally friendly choice is also the cheaper choice. For example, with the vegan buffet, if I'm not mistaken, also at Film University, we can't decide which energy source to use. We cannot say, okay, we switch to green energy. Vivian and Maximilian with green producing for a short film.
Yes, so the first topic is the pre-planning. There have been some obvious challenging points for sustainability. One was a scene with the ocean, which has been actually deleted from the script, not only because of sustainability problems, but we wanted to mention it here because actually the script is already the first point where the green consulting and the optimization process starts. We had meetings from an early stage on with production and direction to ensure that they were informed and that we all had the same goals. For example, we have the catering as one of our hotspots regarding, for example, to the high percentage in comparison to the total amount of CO2 emissions. Another hotspot was the commute of the main actress, where a local actress or maybe a stay at an eco-friendly hotel would have been or would have saved at least some carbon. We recommended to have 2 veggie days instead of 1, and a detailed waste separation.
And then you also have like sort of, for example, a trip list where you have exact mileage. Quick example for the current data. In our film studio, it was pretty convenient to track the current data because all of the power in our studio is coming through one device, and we can track it there. And then there comes the final evaluation report and the analysis. We were checking all points determined from the MFG. This is the company who the CO2 calculator and the label is from. But in the end, we theoretically achieved the label. Our final CO2 calculation is 2,956 kilograms, which is almost 1 ton less than expected. First of all, communication is essential, especially before, but also during and after the shooting. And lastly, it's important to keep the crew up to date, to motivate them to track their CO2 values even after the shoot. For example, we used weekly sheets for this. Actually, we were like external green consultants. We visited the lecture green consultant at the HTM, and then we're sort of mixed with the studio production, which is a completely different lecture.
Yeah, and I think it was really useful that there are some objective parts because it's more easy, I think, than if you're from one department and telling other departments what to do.
It's twofold. One thing is, well, every bit counts, and if you can save 30% with your production, you should do that. And the other thing is, of course, what Vivian said. It's about the mindset of people. That if you're aware of this in the small production, you will be aware of this in the large production.